Nations are recorded in the Gospels, right? So the Gospel is interactive. It's not a spectator sport. It's a participative sport. So everyone, regardless of age, background, ability, is included and is involved. So no passengers. We're all here to work and enjoy God's goodness. Okay, so I've now got the controls, so I'm in charge of this. Okay, so Pastor Roy had asked me to speak on the nations as our inheritance, which is Psalm 2, verse 8, but it's worthwhile looking at Psalm 2 just as a kind of background. So I'm Andy Sharp. I'm the regional manager for Operation Christmas Child in Scotland. I've been doing the job just literally over a year. I took over from a lady called Arma Noble, who did an amazing job, an absolutely amazing job. And I love my job because I get to meet different pastors and churches and different denominations and different people groups. It's just the best bit of my job is I get to meet everyone and speak to them, because it gives you that, like we were talking about this earlier on, a little taste of heaven. Because when we go there, they don't have a kind of, there's a Scottish section, there's the Nigerian section, there's the Chinese. We're all integrated and part of the one family, singing with one voice. So you'll see there in the background, this is me at our headquarters, and these people who I'm standing next to are what we call full circle speakers. These are people who received shoeboxes in their host nation and have come back to the UK, and they're now part of the team sharing about the difference receiving a shoebox made. So there may even be people here who are in that position. It'd be lovely to meet you. Anyway, let's start off with Psalm 2. Okay, if you were to switch on a news channel right now, I challenge you to see the difference between what is spoken about in Psalm 2 and what you would see right in front of your eyes. Why do the nations conspire and the peoples plot in vain? The kings of the earth rise up and the rulers band together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, let us break their chains and throw off their shackles. What do you see happening in the world? Turmoil, greed, disregard for others' values, disregard for land, for property, for inheritance, for the accumulation of wealth and greed. You see it in a geopolitical level, you'll see it in your own circumstances. People who are lovers of themselves, an indicator of the end times. But this is amazing when you read from verse 4. The one enthroned in heavens laughs. The Lord scoffs at them. He rebukes them in his anger and terrifies them in his wrath, saying, I have installed my king on Zion, my holy mountain. I used to work for Police Scotland a few years ago as a leadership development officer, and my boss was a Catholic, but a charismatic Catholic, so the two of us used to pray in tongues in the office and share stories and all the rest of it. And he always said to me, how do you make God laugh? What do you mean? How do you make God laugh? He says, tell him your plans. And you see in this psalm all of this activity and behaviors, and God's not sitting in heaven wringing his hands. He's not sitting in heaven wringing his hands right now about me speaking and going, oh, no, not Andy Sharp, not again. They've given him a microphone. Oh, come on. You know, it's not like that. God is not afraid, worried, anxious. He's perfectly calm in heaven. There's no weeping, no death, no sickness, no tears, no sorrow. So when Jesus was saying, let your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven, who wouldn't want that? That's our inheritance. That's what we've got to look forward to. Verse 7, I will proclaim the Lord's decree. He said to me, you are my son. Today I have become your father. And it could easily be, you have become my daughter. So it's not just for the men. In verse 8, ask me. Okay, that's a challenge from God. Ask him. And I will make the nations your inheritance, the ends of the earth your possession. So, have you been asking? Have you been asking? Maybe we need to start. Apostle Park is probably a good place to start, isn't it? All of this area, Springburn, north of the city. If he can give you whole nations, I think he could give you small areas within a nation. And who did it belong to? It belonged to God, but he wants us to have them. But he wants us to ask. And these will become our inheritance. We get to pass it on to generations behind us. You will break them with a rod of iron. You will dash them to pieces like pottery. Therefore, you kings, be wise, be warned, rulers of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear and celebrate his rule with trembling. Kiss the Son, kiss his Son, lest he be angry, and your way will lead to your destruction, for his wrath can flare up in a moment. But blessed are all who take refuge in him. Let's just let this sink and settle on us. Let God's kingdom come in this place and reside in us. That we'd realize just how important we are, how significant we are in God's economy. Where he doesn't look at qualification, he doesn't look at background, doesn't look at age, doesn't look at birth order. He loves us and is asking us to ask him for things. Anyone who's a parent will know how difficult that can be at times, when you're, particularly if you're tight on cash and your children are coming up saying, Mum, I need new shoes. Mum, I need new trainers. Dad, can you get me this? I need a new PlayStation. I need a new, the internet in here isn't fast enough. But God's willing to show us how good a father he is and give us these things. So, I'll tell you a wee story about myself. Okay? The reason I've put Vladimir Zelensky up there is a couple of weeks ago he was interviewed on TV about the war. And what he said was this: it's the people that matter, not the land. When people are getting killed and things, that's way more important than the land. Although he said he doesn't want to cede any land to Russia in the war. So when we're talking about nations, it's not specific areas, lines and maps. It's the people that matter. That's what God wants us to focus on. You all know what that game is? Yeah, chess. So when I was a young boy, my dad taught me how to play chess. I'm not very good at it, but when I was in school in first year, we used to have a chess club that would meet during lunch. And because the time was really, really tight, you'd maybe get one game in, maybe two games if you were really, really good, or you're really rotten, you could get beat quickly. And in order to decide who'd won, sometimes they had to decide on, well, who's got the most value left on the board. So like a pawn would be worth 1 point, a knight would be 3 points, a bishop would be 5 points, a queen would be 9 points, the king was worth 10, that kind of thing. So if you weren't sure who'd won, you'd count up how many of their pieces you'd taken and see who was the winner. So quite often you find people who play chess actually do the same with human beings. They place a value on them and think, how useful to me are you? And if we're not careful, we can be just as guilty. So let me ask you, what's a person worth? Is CE away and she gone, the worship leader? What's she worth? Could you put a value on her? Okay, Louise, you're still here. What's Louise worth? If you knew she was a doctor or an airline pilot or a pharmacist, would you think she's worth more than a janitor? be honest. It's okay, you're allowed to speak back. I'm not going to give you into trouble. I used to do this as a professional. I was a lecturer for a few years. So you're allowed to talk back. Okay. What about Davis? So he's a bass player there. So he must be worth a lot as a bass player. Nobody's speaking to me. What's wrong? What about a janitor or a bus driver? Do they have any value? Are they more important than an airline pilot? Why not? What happens if the janitor doesn't turn up for his job? The building doesn't open because there's no health and safety. It doesn't matter if it's a building that has airline pilots in it, the chief executive of the airline, whatever. The janitors are on strike and they don't open the doors. There's nothing happening. Okay, so I'm trying to establish a wee principle here, but in our minds we kind of sometimes, who are you, what do you do, what's your profession, and then we kind of, how will I moderate my language or my behaviour around that person? Are you the same in front of Pastor Roy as you are in every other circumstance in your life? Or do you moderate it because you know it's Pastor Roy? We all do, of course we do. I'm not above all this stuff, I'm just as guilty as anyone else. But the issue is, how do we value people? Because when we're talking about God is saying, ask me and I will give you the nations for your inheritance. It's the people, isn't it? So let's ask the question. If you look at the guys there on the left then, all these professions, what about someone who's very, very antisocial? You probably think they're possessed. Maybe multiple personalities, that kind of thing. Schizophrenic, violent. They don't wear any clothes and they live in a graveyard. Are they more valuable than the ones on the left-hand side of the screen? Sorry, I make you think on a Sunday, I know, sorry. Right, if you look at Mark chapter 4, you see a story about Jesus saying, come on, we're going to the other side of the lake. And a storm kicks up like this morning when I was out walking my dog. And I'm, oh, for goodness sake, what is going on? This is British summertime. We move the clocks forward and look at the weather. And the storm kicks up and Jesus is sleeping in the front of the boat. And these seasoned fishermen absolutely panic because the storm is coming into the boat. And meanwhile, the guy who said we're going over there is lying at the front of the boat sleeping. Don't you care that we're going to die? Don't you care that we're going to drown? And he gets up, speaks to the storm. Look at the weather outside now, Pastor Roy. I know two guys who were standing at the door of the church this morning praying that the weather wouldn't be a factor in stopping people being here. We need to get it a bit faster the next time, yeah. But what was God doing is he was demonstrating his power over nature. So Psalm 2, you saw men conspiring and doing all these things, and God's in heaven laughing. And then starts to get a bit irritated back because of the importance they give themselves. When he's in control of the whole universe. Okay? So you flick on to the next chapter. Chapter 5. And what do you see? The boat arrives. Jesus gets out of the boat, walks up on the land, and what happens? You got your Bibles with you? Yeah, well, you're allowed to use them, it's okay. Mark chapter 5. Let's read a wee bit. They went across the lake to the region of the Gerasenes. When Jesus got out of the boat, the man with an impure spirit came from the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. For he'd often been chained hand and foot, but he tore the chains apart and broke the irons around his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills he would cry out and cut himself with stones. Pretty much possessed. Yeah. What we'd probably say now, mental illness. Or severe mental illness. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me? Jesus, Son of the Most High God. In God's name, don't torture me." But Jesus said to him, "Come out of this man, you impure spirit." And then Jesus asked him, "What's your name?" And it wasn't the man who replied. Okay, it wasn't the man that replied, it was the demon. "What's your name?" "My name is Legion, for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send him out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs, allow us to go into them." He gave them permission, and the impure spirits came out, went into the pig. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and were drowned. Those tending the pigs ran off and reported this in the town and countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who'd been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there, dressed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Why would they be afraid? There's a lot of stuff going on here that's really interesting. You've seen the guy before, chained up, naked, and going mad, and you've tried to chain him up. So obviously someone was brave enough to try and tie the guy down. Now he's sitting there like a normal person. You're like, I'm not sure about this. So those who'd seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man and told them about the pigs as well. Then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave their region. And that's that last wee bit I've never quite got my head around. Why, when he solved that problem, and you saw there was a guy there who was an absolute nightmare, antisocial behaviour, possessed, violent, aggressive, wailing and shouting and cutting himself all day and all night, and suddenly he's back to being a normal person. Now, if you were Jewish, what were you doing near pigs? Because they're not kosher. They're unclean. You should have nothing to do with them. So why were they tolerating pigs? Which is not something they're supposed to have any dealings with. And now that the pigs were going, they're like to Jesus, "Away you go, away you go." People are strange. So I'm using this illustration to give you an example. What was that demon-possessed guy worth? So what's the cost of 2,000 pigs? Okay. It's between 304,000 and 400,000 pounds. Jesus valued that madman more than something worth over 300,000 to 400,000. If that was your neighbour, what would you be putting the value on him? If that was someone in your street, you would know them. They'd have a reputation. There's maybe a family living next to you like that right now, and you're thinking, what value would society put on them? What value would Jesus put on them? What value would I put on them? So the worst, the most dangerous, the most difficult was worth more than £400,000. Tells you about God's economy and God's value system. Now, there was a reason why the people wanted Jesus to leave. Okay, so what you'd seen was a demonstration of God's power over the kingdom, or over the heavens, over the earth, over the elements. But actually, there was a reason why the people in the population asked Jesus to leave, and it's on the right side of the screen. So you see there the insignia of the 10th Legion of Rome, who was based in that area, and an insignia was a boar, a wild boar. How many soldiers were in the Legion? 2,000. How many pigs? 2,000. God, through Jesus, was demonstrating authority over men and over that as well. The ruling authorities. It wasn't just the elements where only the disciples knew what would happen and over the heavens and the earth. But he was saying, my kingdom is on earth as well. And when he dealt with the pigs were there, obviously there to feed the Roman soldiers. And that's why the people were afraid, because what are we going to give these guys to eat? We were making money from this Roman garrison here. But it was symbolic as well. He was demonstrating to the people, I am above everything you can see, without saying a word. The thing that was oppressing them, the thing that was basically holding them down, Jesus was bigger than and had the power and authority over. So there's amazing prophetic significance in these things. That's the God we serve. That's the God that called us out of darkness into light. That's the God that bled to death on the cross because he saw us. It's been really valuable. Doesn't matter what mess you came from. Doesn't matter what circumstances you came from. Doesn't matter what background, what the world thought of you, what your net worth was, what your qualifications were. We are more valuable to God than we know. So can we ask God to transfer his value system to us? Because this is what mission's about. It's about recognizing how God sees the world and God sees people. The difficulty is he uses us to reach them. We represent, but we also reflect the nature of God. And when he calls us, you're like that. Are you sure? Are you sure? Don't you know who I am? And you kind of find all the reasons to disqualify yourself. So when Pastor Roy is saying, let's do some mission, is everybody going, yes, thank you, Pastor. I couldn't wait for you to tell us that. Or you're thinking, oh no. Oh, I've got a really sore fractured eyelash, Pastor. I can't come out. Oh, it's very windy, Pastor, and I don't know if my eyelash will cope. You're in good company. You read Exodus 4 before? Exodus 3 when Moses was called? He was in the desert. He was 80 years old. He was looking after sheep after having been brought up as a prince in the strongest nation in the world at that time. And he ran away because he'd killed a man. You know, and he thought when he killed him that would be enough to turn people around, and they thought, oh, there's the man God sent us. And when the people said, well, you're going to kill us like you did to that Egyptian, he panicked and he ran. And he ran for 40 years. And he's in the desert looking after sheep, the back of beyond, and God sends a sign, a burning bush, and he calls him over and starts talking to him. And I have indeed heard of the oppression of my people in Egypt, and I'm going to strike them with all my powers. So I'm sending you. Everything was great right up until the bit he said, well, I'm sending you. And he's like, If you read through Exodus 4, how many different reasons or excuses does Moses come up with for sending somebody else, not me? It's 6. But you know, what if they want to know your name and I don't know your name? And what's the question that God asks in Exodus 4, verse 2? What's in your hand? See, when we're told that we're to do the work of an evangelist and that God's going to give us the nations as inheritance, that's all brilliant, isn't it? till you have to do something about it. Where you have to put one foot in front of the other. Where you have to go and talk to your mad Glaswegian neighbour who shouts and swears and drinks and falls all over the place, or who their kids are out of control. And you're like that. Send somebody else, God. You know, it's easy to think of, yeah, he's given us the nations. I think, where would I go? Cape Verde, you know, west coast of Africa. That sounds like a good wee start. It's not too big a nation, probably, to be able to do something there, because it's far enough away where I don't have to be an accountable person. You know, it's easy to think like that. It's easy to think that the power and everything's for someone else, for far away, when God is saying, what's in your hand? And he gets in your face, what's in your hand? Okay. Is there anyone in this church who has not tasted jollof rice? Put your hand up now. What about beignet? Anyone not tasted beignet? Yeah. Do you know what beignet? Yeah. Do you want to explain it to them? Buff buff. Buff buff, yep. Yeah. In Jamaica they call it festival. Yep. Does anyone here not know how to make jollof rice or beignet or buff buff? So if I asked your neighbours, the people you live with, along beside, have you ever tasted jollof rice? What would their experience they say to me? I used to work as a lecturer, and I was working at a college in Ayrshire College it was, and I said to the students there, has anyone here never tasted jollof rice? Every single person in the room put their hand up. Something that you think is an everyday, it's about in Jamaica, rice and peas. I don't know what the equivalent for you would be. Is it rice? Yeah. But it'll be not just any rice, will it? It'll be, yeah, and it'll have flavours and aromatic and, yeah, right. Stuff that you take for granted. A bit like potatoes if you're Scottish. Okay? Or pasta if you're Italian. Right? And you're looking at me now as to what is this madman talking about? Moses had a stick in his hand. Right? The answer's not 1,000 miles away. It's already with you. If your neighbours haven't tasted jollof rice or beignet or baf, guess what you're able to do for your mission? I made a little bit extra. I'd love you to try some food from my country and let me know what you think. That's how hard this gets. That's how hard it gets. And if you can do that, that's already in your hand. And you can use that to bring mission to your neighbourhood. That you start with the person on a non-spiritual level, and you build a relationship, and through that relationship people start to say, why are you doing this? What makes you different? And the God inside you shines in their darkness. And I'm pretty sure that they're not going to be as intimidating as the guy at the Gadarene demoniac. Some of them might be, but you're paying attention to the wrong things. You're paying attention to what they are rather than what God is and what God has done in you. It's Christ in you, the hope of glory. Not Christ in the guy down the road 500 miles away or somebody in London. It's in you. It's in your hand already. Now the complication for that is we can't avoid it. What's in your hand? God's already given you things that you can use to make the difference in someone else's life. Do you want to know how to do evangelism? I'll show you right now. Pastor Roy, how's your week been? That's how it starts. You show concern or interest in another person. And it might take 500 attempts before they come back to you and say, oh, you always ask me that. Why are you? Oh, I'm interested in how you are. I care about people. I can't believe what I believe and not do something about what I believe. And I'm not going to talk to him about the silver sockets at the tabernacle and why they use sea cows on the curtains, and because it doesn't matter. You have to relate. You want to know how to do evangelism? We're talking about mission today. Have you read John chapter 4? When Jesus talks to the lady, the Samaritan lady at the well. He didn't walk up and say, by the way, do you know I'm the Son of God? Why not? Oh, can I have a drink of water? Greets the person on a non-spiritual level. Have you ever tasted jollof rice? We've made extra. We'd love you to try it. We've made Singapore noodles. We'd love you to try it. There's some extra. Just tell us what you think. That's the start of the journey. What's that person worth? Are they worth a little bit of inconvenience because you give them some buff or beignet or jollof rice? That's how hard it is. And they're not going to want to know all of the answers to all of the stuff. They just want to know why you care. And if people don't sense that you care, they're not interested in your message. Period. But when you show that you care, tell me why. Why were you different from other people? Why did you react differently? It's not very hard, is it? That's already in your hand. And we're all included in it. So it doesn't matter how good your fractured eyelash story is. It doesn't matter. It's dead easy. So all these people who are from different countries who have made Scotland their home, bring your culture and share it. This is why God's put you here. Do you think He just got you here to give you a wee bit of money so you could send it home? Or educate you? No, He's got a plan for you. He needs you here. There are people that only you here can reach. That if I lived to be 1 million, I would never get close to. And yet He's placed you here for such a time as this. What's in your hand? What's in your hand? It's that easy. Okay. Okay. This is something that's already in your church's hand. You've already been part of it. You, 2 years ago, did over 600 boxes. That's incredible. This is already in your church. Do you think God can use this in Scotland? That's what I'm challenging about. Wow, we're packing shoe boxes to send overseas. Come and join us. Bring a box with you. It's fantastic fun. You hear some amazing stories. We've got food. Have you tasted jollof rice or beignet? No? Oh, well, we'll have it there that day. And invite them to church. Come in and realize that all the social, emotional, spiritual barriers that you've concocted in your head for not coming to church are nonsense. Come in and meet people from different cultures, be welcomed, be treated with respect, be loved. Get them to belong before they believe. Yeah? Because they're treated with love and respect. And guess what? God moves. What's the biggest killer in Scotland at the moment? It's not radiation. It's loneliness. And people are looking for something that's genuine and authentic. So don't be afraid to reach out. Don't be afraid to make friends. Don't be afraid to share food. Bring the invitation. Come with me. And it's not to church necessarily. It's to pack boxes, but it's been done in a church. But I haven't got any money. That's fine. The church has already provided things. Can you knit? Yeah, I knit all the time. Fantastic. Could you knit scarves and hats for children? Gloves? Brilliant. The reason we had to stop processing in Glasgow last December is we ran out of what we call soft fillers. Hats, scarves, gloves. So people will exclude themselves, and yet they've got all these things that they're brilliant at doing. What's in your hand? You can ask them the same question. What's in your hand? It's dead easy. Well, I've got shoe boxes. That's brilliant. Bring it with you. Oh, I've got a cash and carry card for Costco along the road there. Brilliant. Can you get school supplies? Can you bring toothbrushes? Fantastic. And what's happening is they're already being enrolled in the kingdom before they know it. And then they start to say, why do you do this? And this is what we live for as Christians, someone who has the why question. I did street pastors in Glasgow for 13 years. So between sort of like 10 at night and 4 o'clock in the morning, we'd go out on a Friday and a Saturday night to speak to people who are coming from the clubs. And we give out flip-flops and we do first aid and all these things just so we could have a conversation where someone would say, why? Here's some rice. Here's some of our chicken. Why? Because we care about you. We want you to know that we want you to feel that we care about you. We want you to know that we want to be your friends. And this is a way of us demonstrating that. Wow. Is there anyone that couldn't do that? It's easy to think of this evangelism as a big, big, hard thing that's only for specialist people. If you can talk, you're qualified. If you've got a pulse, you're qualified. If you've got a heartbeat, you're qualified. No excuses. I'll play a wee video here, hopefully.
As Christians, we are tasked to introduce Jesus Christ to every person. How many people share gift boxes, open those doors?
So the photographs there are children in Macedonia. This was January this year, receiving their shoeboxes. And look at the impact on a person's life. So do you think God knows what he's doing? It's not a trick question, by the way. When he says it's more blessed to give than receive, what's this doing for the people who are putting the boxes together? Even if they're not aware of it, it's changing them. And then what's amazing to me is people who are not Christians who do this. And they're not nowhere near church, nowhere near faith, yet something is happening inside of them where they are compelled to give and put stuff together. It's amazing. They're already participating in the gospel before they believe. And you can see this is life-changing for every child. One box tends to be shared with 10 children. They don't just keep the stuff for themselves, even though it might be the only gift they've ever received. They'll share that with their friends and family. And the great thing about that is every box comes with a gospel message and an invitation to come to a discipleship class called The Greatest Journey. And when I tell you the numbers of these things, you'll just be like, wow. And this church is part of that. This is already in your hand and potentially can grow massively. So there's a little video here. And there should be some sound as well.
It's about 4.5 inches tall. Now imagine stacking every shoebox gift packed this year, one on top of another. It would take 3,000 shoebox gifts to reach the height of the Eiffel Tower. To reach the top of Mount Everest, it would take 77,000 shoebox gifts. Now imagine the distance to the International Space Station. And still, you packed more shoebox gifts this year. You all packed 12,205,900 shoebox gifts.
That's global totals. The UK did 232,000 boxes. And you were part of that. And I want to thank you. It's my opportunity to say that you're so appreciated. If it was 1 box or 100 boxes, it doesn't matter. You're appreciated, and you've changed lives, and you've shared the gospel through your actions. So from the 12 million boxes that were given out this year alone, over 6 million children, 6.5 million, came to the Greatest Journey discipleship class. And this year alone, 3.5 million, more than 3.5 million children came to faith this year alone. Right. So since the project started, over 200 million boxes have been given out. Now, we can't count beyond the children who come to faith in the Greatest Journey because we're not allowed to exaggerate the figures. So every box is counted, every person's precious. But we know, because of the way that the boxes are part of a bigger system, things begin to happen. So we do evangelism. So children are invited to come and hear about the greatest gift. Okay? Over 140,000 outreach events every year. Every child that comes gets a shoebox, whether they believe, whether they're Muslim, whether they have no faith background, whether they're Hindu, Sikh, whatever, doesn't matter. If you've got a pulse and you're a child, you'll get a box. Okay, the children are then invited to come on a course called The Greatest Journey. So we've got the materials here that are used to teach and to share with the children. 6 of those lessons are about Jesus. 3 lessons are about how you share your faith with others. And 3 lessons are about how you disciple other people. So the question is, does it work? So I'm not allowed to name all the countries because there's potential repression. And again, some of the things might be streamed on the internet. So just say North Africa, Muslim majority country, a 7-year-old girl gets a box, comes to the discipleship class, The Greatest Journey, and accepts Jesus as her Lord and Saviour. She goes back home to her family and tells them the good news. I'm no longer a Muslim, I've become a Christian. What do you think the family's response was? Oh, let's throw a party. They took the girl, 7-year-old, by the arm to the public square to stone her to death. Here's your final chance. Renounce Jesus and this Christianity and we'll forget about this. No, I renounce Islam. I'm staying a Christian. And the people asked her, why? The why question. 7-year-old girl who had been on the discipleship program shared her testimony and her faith, and 77 adults came to faith on the spot. The limitation is not the gospel. The limitation is our perception of what God can do through the gospel. It's the power of God to salvation. It's inside us, the hope of glory. Right? It's not somewhere else. It's not far, far away. It's already in our hand. Do not ever limit what God can do through you and through your life and through your simple testimony. The blood of the Lamb's already been shed. But how do we overcome? By the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. Your testimony is powerful. It's subjective and no one can argue with it. They might disagree with your theology, but they can't disagree with your personal story. Nobody can. That's why it has such power. Everyone here with a testimony is qualified. What's in your hand? You've got your testimony. You've got your experience of how your life's been different. And guess what happens? The gospel spreads. The gospel spreads, and God uses these simple boxes to change nations. Last year we sent boxes to persecuted countries where the church is persecuted, and these do amazing things. There's already churches springing up, underground churches, because the pastors there have said we want to connect with families and children. There are countries that wouldn't allow us to proselytize, but because the boxes are going in to bless children, come on in. And God does amazing things. There's a story about a young boy who had been really ill. He lived on the border between Belarus and Poland, very, very impoverished area. And when they checked out why he was ill, it turned out he had type 1 diabetes, and the only way for him to live was for him to get his family to buy him a diabetes pump so that they could put the insulin around his body. His family, his community, the whole area that he had didn't have enough money between them to buy a diabetes pump. He goes to hear about the greatest gift, opens his box, and there's a diabetes pump in the box. Whoa, 12 million boxes, and that guy opens the one that has a diabetes pump in it. What does that tell you about our God? Where are the limitations? Are not on God or his ability. It's us that the limitations are. It's us who are thinking too small about what God can do. The simplest things in these boxes can be life-changing. A little child from Romania opens his box, and the cheapest thing generally in the box is the school supplies. So he gets a pencil, a ruler, and some paper and a rubber when he opens his box and bursts into tears. And now, what's wrong? What's wrong? I can finally be allowed to go to school. Because in Romania, there's so little money, unless you bring your own paper, you don't get an education. And something that costs less than £2 changed the whole life. And you're part of that. This is in your hand. So never, ever, ever discount the power of these simple things. And this is what your church's legacy is. You're doing this already. But what I'm challenging you is can we grow this? Can you bring your neighbours to make them belong before they believe? Just because you do simple ways to relate and connect with people, they see the love of God inside you and are compelled to join in. My best man, who, must have got married about 32 years ago. He's been divorced and remarried. He's not a Christian. But I said, listen, we're really short of volunteers at the collection centre. Can any of my friends please come along? He came along, and there's a photograph of him at the end praying over the boxes that are getting sent away. I've never spoken to him about faith or Jesus or anything. But he came along and God got a hold of him. There was a chaplain in there just talking to him about his life and faith. What are the limitations that God has? There are none. Jesus calming the storm, it was impossible. He did it. He dealt with the hardest guy in the whole place, right in front of a garrison of Roman leaders. There's no limitations. And that's who's inside us, with the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead is living inside us. We are more powerful than we realize. Philippians 4:13. Dorothy, what is it? I can do all through Christ. That's a promise for us all. That's the promise for us all. So please consider being part of this incredible ministry. We need volunteers to make it grow. I can only be in one place at a time. So we need volunteers right across Scotland. You'll be joining an amazing team. If you want to pray for us, there's opportunity for you to join our WhatsApp group. And we'll maybe send out a couple of requests a month. Can you please pray for this? Can you please pray for this? And we went from 0 to 53 people in about two months who wanted to do this. And I'd love you to be part of it. It's dead simple. You've got an email address, you've got a mobile number. Please be part of our prayer team. If you want to pack, this church is a collection centre. You can impact this whole community. Invite them to come to have a packing party where you've got resources already there. I'll give you videos, I'll give you leaflets, flyers, stories are called impact stories that I've been sharing with you. That touches people's hearts. You never need to mention the name Jesus. You worry about offence, because the gospel is powerful enough to touch people's hearts and life. Get people to belong in here way before they believe. Make it normal for them to come in, and you will be amazed at the impact God can have. So please partner with us. Pastor Roy.
Thank you so much. What is in your hand? Sometimes we forget